Ni hao, Huan Ling, to Wake 2021. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on the time zone you're living in, and welcome to Wake 2021, the World Artificial Intelligence Conference. Today, I'm very proud and honored to moderate a panel by the name, The Role of Artificial Intelligence in the Era of the Digital and Ecological Transition. We have a very good panel of amazing guests, very different background, top level, and let me introduce the speaker. We have Fabio Moioli, Head Consulting and Service at Microsoft, Luca Pontecorvi, Head of Structuring Italy at Enel, Charles Yap, CEO and co-founder of Clean Robotics, Stefan Verran, CEO and founder on Nwise, and Oscar Ramos, Director, here I have to repeat myself, Oscar, and okay. We also have Oscar Ramos, Vice President of China Accelerator and CSOSV Venture Capital.
The Managing Director, China Accelerator and partner at SOSV. I can write it for you if you want. It's easy.
Okay. Oscar Ramos, Managing Director of China Accelerator and Vice President of SOSV Venture Capital. No?
Partner.
Yeah, it would be best if you have written this.
Yeah,
before.
I'm writing that. Yeah, sorry about that.
So.
Yeah, you have it there.
We also have Oscar Ramos. Managing Director at China Accelerator and partner at SOSV. So we are really in the midst of a very important moment, I think, for digital and ecological transition. As you have seen, the COVID has introduced a new wave of digital investment and opportunities in the ecological and green investment. Just to give you a few ideas and numbers about the numbers that are concurring to investment at the moment, only the EU Green Deal is reaching up to 1 trillion investment in the green sector. About 500 billion are coming from the EU budget, 280 billion are coming from public and private investment, and 100 billion from national co-financing. Overall, Biden, sorry guys, but I really have problem to read the notes behind the screen. So let me just repeat everything from scratch, right? Fortunately, I'm used to use like 4 screens usually, and this time I have only 1 screen. So, okay. So when a few weeks ago, the WAKE conference invited me to discuss about these topics, I was very honored to help this topic about green investment. And I thought, why we don't have a panel explaining the importance of investment in the green sector? After all, the EU Green Deal is building up investment to up 1 trillion only in Europe, half of which is coming from the EU budget, 280 billion from the public and private sector, and 100 billion from national co-finance. In the US, Biden is planning for a clean energy revolution and allocating more than 1.7 trillion over the next 10 years. And we are still discussing about the commitment of China to reveal how the environmental and social government will assess the importance of this investment in the next years. So I would probably start with a round of questions to the person that are more active in the green investment. For this, I will probably give the first question to Oscar Ramos, Director of China Accelerator, which is also one of the biggest VC and accelerator investing every year in more than 150 startups. I will ask to Oscar, how do you see the artificial investment and green investment coming together over the next year? And where do you see the most of the value of the early stage startups in this new investment environment?
Thank you very much for the question, Manuel. So for us at SOSB, climate technology, green technology is definitely a top priority. Recently, we did a study on our own portfolio and identifying some of our top companies that in the area of climate tech and green tech, finding that we're probably one of the most active investors in the world in that area. With over 150 companies only in that space, covering different areas from energy, food production, logistics, etc., and working across multiple technologies, ranging from more biotech that normally requires a long time to produce, hardware that might require a bit more time to deploy, and then we end up in the software space, where obviously that's where the artificial intelligence falls as the core technology that can drive a lot of value. One of the things that is very interesting about artificial intelligence is the speed of deployment, is the capacity that has that technology to learn and evolve and improve constantly. It has an ability to apply itself to multiple industries where we can see improvement in efficiency by nature. When we're talking about reducing carbon emissions, when we're talking about improving efficiency, being able to optimize processes is critical. And that's where China is also quite an interesting market, because the dimensions of everything in China, the scale of everything in China, and the access to data with sometimes a lot of smart hardware elements and sensors across the whole chain, from production to distribution to warehousing, every single element allows us to have a lot of data points that is critical to be able to produce any value. That's one of the reasons why increasingly we are more and more actively looking into companies in this space, and we're seeing how as the Chinese economy transitions from a more cost advantage driven to a more efficiency and more value driven economy, all of these elements become more and more critical.
That's pretty awesome. So I see there are a lot of connections with the new AI also application at the edge of, let's say, digital and physical, where you mentioned IoT. I must say also in TechBricks, we're also very active with this type of high deep tech technology integration, and we are using a lot of unstructured data. So talking about this, I know that in a few energy companies, these type of applications are becoming, let's say, mainstream. And I would like to pass the word to Luca Pontecorvi. Luca, you have a PhD in biomedical engineering and also a master in quantitative finance. So you come from the quantitative part of the research, and you've been applying this type of concept more and more into the energy sector, something that I also was used to do in the past, as I was also a trader and risk manager myself. So I would like to ask Luca, what do you think are the energy markets fostering the green energy transition, and what are the future developments? And if you want also to start discussing a bit more about the AI application in this sector.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Manuele, for this question, and thank you for having me here. Starting from the application in the energy market, I would say that one of the most interesting application in the energy sector is for the collection and the forecasting of meteorological data. It seems quite far from the world of energy, but actually, if we talk about renewable, comes to our mind one of the first connection with weather data, and actually be able to collect and forecast this kind of information is something that is really critical, really important in the energy sector. Up to now, just to give you an example, one of the tricky part of one of the most hard part of the story, speaking about renewable, is to estimate and to forecast the production of an hydro plant. It seems a quite easy problem, but actually when you have to estimate the thickness of a snowpack, for example, Up to now, the best way to do that is the physical one. So you have to go there and you have to measure the thickness of the snowpack through a probe. Recent research are trying to use the satellite photos processing and integrate this information also with drones information. And the idea is to take photo and understand the thickness of this snowpack. And actually, from my point of view, this is amazing because we are switching from a physical information, something that you measure in loco, to something that is more related to IA. Actually, this is an example of what is happening in our history. It's just one of the example of what this kind of new technology is applied in an energy market. Another one comes from an example that I can give you comes from my background, as you said, in the trading. And right now we are using a complex system that counts the number of time that a word is used in the news, and then connect this information with the price change in the market. And the idea is to understand why and which kind of effect have I used on the price. And this is again, it's something really new, and it's amazing because you are trying to connect a qualitative information to a quantitative one, and have a lot of impact, and it's a huge change in our daily job.
That's a very nice application, and I don't know if you heard of one of our startups, Alpha Edge. You kind of gave me a good assist because we're trying to develop something very similar also with the Earth observation images in one of our startups. So it looks like there are very good applications also in the energy sector. And I will move now from energy to a large site of application that probably for IT giants like Microsoft are at the edge of discussion right now. So I will give the word to Fabio. Fabio, let me just introduce a few words about Fabio because his curriculum, his CV and experience is outstanding. Fabio has a Master of Science in Computer Science from Politecnico di Milano, an MSc in Electrical Engineering by the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm. Now he's head of consulting service at Microsoft, but he has been also vice president Capgemini, associate at McKinsey with a very long track record of experience at the edge of both academic research, applied research, and industrial world. He was also a member of Forbes Technology Council. And when he has some spare time, and I wonder how, he also enjoys writing articles on artificial intelligence to more than 260,000 followers on LinkedIn. So I guess you have your day full of discussion about the role of edge technologies like artificial intelligence in many sectors. But I would like to ask Fabio, you think artificial intelligence has really the potential to achieve a green transition in several fields of environmental policy? And where do you see the highest potential of this application?
Thank you, Manuele. And again, it's a pleasure to be here with you today, with all of you. I really think that the application of AI at large for helping our planet Earth, and for helping really the challenge that we are facing as in this challenging era of our history are really immense. I mean, it's difficult to cover the infinity application of AI. It's a little bit like electricity is the general purpose technology. It can be used everywhere. Really, the friend from Energy shared some very great example of how it can be used in some specific context in the energy sector. For sure, energy is a sector where there are many applications of usage of AI. But moving to a completely different sector, there are a lot of applications in the smart city, cognitive building that we are seeing using AI to optimize energy in the building, to use energy when maybe with the proper forecasting allocation when there is green energy available. Moving to a completely different sector in agriculture, we are doing a lot of projects in the precision agriculture domain, where with AI you may increase productivity of the soil using less water, using less pesticides, with a great benefit that you can imagine. In the ocean, we are doing a lot of very nice projects related with water, with clean water, for instance, ocean cleanup. It's a project that uses machine learning to identify plastic pollution in the rivers, and it simulates how it moves in the ocean. And that basically this insight power passive cleanup system to help remove plastic that really impact our ecosystem. Talking about ecosystem, there are a lot of projects that use AI for zoo diversity to really track species that are at danger to disappear from our planet, and to recognize different single individual, how they move, so to track the movement, to protect them. You can use AI in, for instance, in Amazonia to understand if there is someone cutting a tree in a place where it's not allowed, because with AI you can easily understand, recognize the noise of someone cutting the tree from all the many noises that you have in Amazonia. And I could continue for hours and hours with a lot of different examples, really from completely different field, because I think that this is the most interesting thing. There is not probably one single application, but it's really the amount of diverse application of the AI that all together can help us saving our planet.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your overview. I think we can go more in detail maybe in the second part of the panel, where I will let all the speakers interact a bit more on where they see the edge of application of AI and technology in green tech and in the ecological transition. For the time being, let's talk with Shar. Shar Yap, you are the co-founder and CEO of Clean Robotics, which I understand is a company creating sustainable and innovative tech-driven solution to persistent environmental problems. So can you give me your angle on how do you tackle ecological challenges with the use of cutting-edge technologies?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for that introduction. So I think it makes sense to introduce what our company does and our core technology before kind of going into my take on sustainability and ecology and artificial intelligence. So our company makes a product called TrashBot. It's a system that uses AI, robotics, and computer vision to detect waste as you throw it away. And it can separate any 2, 3, or 4 streams 300% more accurately than the public. So in the United States, most commonly, that would be landfill, recyclables, and compost. In other parts of the world, it might be some combination of those 3, maybe an additional one, any 2, 3, or 4 streams. The interesting thing about artificial intelligence and solid waste management is, I think of our company primarily as a software and a data company disguised as a hardware company. And the reason for that is most of our customers really see the value in the data and the insights that we can provide for their operations. For example, with major international airports, obviously they care about diverting waste from landfill, but an even larger concern that they have is tracking how much carbon they're able to offset and abate through different types of sustainability initiatives that they take. So our technology is able to, using very simple rules of thumb and benchmarks, account for the amount of carbon that is abated by every 1 ton of recyclables that we're able to sort more effectively than the public. And that's just one application. Artificial intelligence can be used for other things that can serve as carrots or sticks to further drive sustainability. For example, we are collecting data on every single item of waste that goes through our fleet, and that information can then be collated, aggregated, and parsed out in a way that regulators can then use to either enforce extended producer responsibility schemes or to reward, good actors. Likewise, that same data and the same artificial intelligence frameworks can be used to empower consumers, for example, to track their own waste footprint, by extension, their carbon footprint. And artificial intelligence can also be used to recommend more sustainable products, more sustainable packaging, and it really can enable the public as well as regulators and private companies to make better choices. And so kind of echoing Fabio's remarks, the magic of AI and the promise of AI is that it's a multi-purpose, general foundational technology that can be used across industries by different types of stakeholders to drive sustainability and really make an impact on the climate and environmental crisis that the planet is facing.
Thank you so much, Shar. It was very interesting to understand what your company is involved in. So from one certain entrepreneur to another, let's say, innovation guy, Stefan, I understand you always been kind of fascinated by the relation between information and energy, which is a very interesting topic that we want to address all together today. and you are now CEO and founder of Enwise, which is a company providing clean and affordable energy powered by AI. Can you explain a bit more how your company is tackling the energy challenges with AI at the moment?
Okay, so I just would like to start with a question to all of you. What's the difference between a traditional fossil energy and renewable energy? What's the main difference about it?
I might answer that, the source of energy, the way the initial source transform into energy and the ability to make some work and power.
Yes, and something we can note about it is that why we started with fossil energy is because we have a much higher density of energy in fossil fuel than in renewable energy. If you just have wind or biomass or even sun, is actually a a form of energy that's really not dense. But if you have some oil or some coal, it's extremely dense energy in terms of how much energy you have per unit of volume. And this changed a lot of things, because when you have fossil energy, you can have centralized extraction of energy because it's very dense. And then you will have centralized equipment to operate that. And then you will have centralized expertise to make it run. When you go to renewable energy, you need to be decentralized. Not because you like to be decentralized, just because the energy is very thin and you have to be a little bit everywhere to collect it. And with that, you need decentralized equipment. And with that, you need decentralized expertise. So because you have decentralized equipment, you should be very careful about your operation, because costs can go up very soon. So you should be able to have very lean maintenance, very well managed cost of total cost of ownership. And also you cannot afford to have experts everywhere. You need to have this expertise that is diffused along all your equipments. And that's where AI enters into place. Because by centering your operation, your design around data, processing this data, you're able to make very educated choice. You're able to optimize the maintenance, optimize the performance on a very decentralized set of equipment, and to be able to lower the cost of those clean energy. And that's what we do at Enwise. So we produce energy from biomass in very delocalized zones. For example, in food industry, like we collect some waste of very large potato chips manufacturer, and we're able to provide around 20% of their electricity just with their waste. But we cannot afford to have experts anywhere, and that's why our machines are all constructed around data, and we are able to manage them remotely through AI algorithm.
And can you just give us an example of what type of application do you think in renewable energy can be relayed by AI, just for us to understand better what are the real, let's say, data science application of biofuels, which is an interesting topic. And I will also maybe ask if I'm not going out of rails, what if there is any synergy also perhaps with the hydrogen applications.
Yeah, so I'll just start by what we do. We produce biogas from waste, and this is a consortium of bacteria. So you need to maintain a kind of environmental equilibrium between the systems. So in traditional centralized plants, you have some experts that are here that are trying to put the system so it's okay. But on our system, we just manage it remotely. So the system just learns the reaction of the bacteria and keep them in an optimal way. And this is the big things, but it will also come with predictive maintenance. We are able to foster if equipment can go wrong and able to act quicker, so at a lower cost. So we can lower the cost of this energy.
Thank you very much. Of course, this is not like a pure energy panel. I come from the energy sector, and I would be also kind of interested to understand, compared to biofuel, how maybe the hydrogen developments are kind of going towards the same challenges let's say in artificial intelligence. I might say that one of the main challenge that I see, of course, is relates to what you, Stefan, just mentioned, which is decentralization. Most of the supply chain and the application of hydrogen, I think, will be like self-sustained economies. And to this extent, I see a lot the potential of also digital hubs to, let's say, make more efficient the decentralized station of hydrogen. And that's, of course, applies also to other type of renewable energy application like biofuels. So it was very, very interesting, and congratulations for your venture. Let's get back maybe to the investor side. So Oscar, back to you. We have seen a round of very interesting discussion about applications of startups and even large giants challenges in corporate innovation, like Microsoft for digital artificial intelligence application in the energy and the green sectors. Where do you think there are the most, let's say, the biggest opportunities for early stage investors at the moment to deploy, let's say, deep tech application also in the energy and green transition, which is a topic that in TechBricks we are really, really committed to?
Well, I mean, as you mentioned, I mean, you're talking about energy. We're very broad in terms of the type of industries that we cover. So for us, when we look at an opportunity, we are not looking for opportunities in a specific industry. So when we think about green technology and carbon emission reductions, we're looking at everything from the production to the all the distribution, last mile, consumption, and that could be around any single element that could have impact in the whole value chain. Additionally, we do that globally. So even if I'm based in Shanghai, and obviously a lot of the investments that we make, they have a very strong Asia angle in what we do, because we're based here, and being here, we are able to see opportunities and spot opportunities that sometimes are not visible. And especially for early stage technology companies, one of the key challenges that they always face is the fact that they have to convince whoever needs to adopt the technology that what they bring is better than the legacy infrastructure. So it's always easier when there's nothing, and then you bring in something that will create a lot of efficiency, that when there's something that has already been deployed, something that already someone has made an investment, and you need to make sure that there's a return on investment before you make any changes. So from that point of view, the need for sometimes optimization from a more emerging market, a more developed market, it comes in a very different way. In one case, sometimes it comes more pushed by regulation and a demand, even sometimes from the consumer, that is demanding more green in the core of the companies, whereas sometimes in the emerging markets, this comes at a need to try to make sure that things can be sustainable, not just from a green perspective, but from an economic perspective. No, and that 360 degree opportunity, I think, is quite interesting, and it brings a lot of options for identification of potential investments. That being said, right now we are seeing changes, and obviously there's some dynamics that are very strong in the market. So the growth of electric vehicles, the growth of automation is something that is driving a lot of change, and we see a lot of opportunities in these areas. Opening this wave of opportunities is uncovering also another layer of options that sometimes are hidden behind the quick wins that you can achieve with very simple initial integration of technology. And what is interesting is how we are seeing more and more multinationals understanding that sometimes the real innovation is not just the invention, is not just the R&D driven creation of new technology, but the application of these technologies in a way where you can address specifically a problem in a very practical way that can drive clear value for the user, clear value for whatever type of challenge you're trying to address, and in some situations, even just the business model and the pricing model that you define could be critical for the success or the failure of companies. And that's what we're seeing increasingly more and more large organizations exploring these opportunities to work and collaborate with smaller companies that can bring this alternative way of trying to create value, because obviously the type of R&D budgets that large organizations can have are in most cases inaccessible to smaller companies.
That's an amazing perspective. I thought you were talking about application in the VC and startup worlds, but actually you give me good access to pass the word to Fabio back again and see the same type of question from a more corporate angle. So what do you think instead for a corporate are the real challenge at the, at the green transition, and how to use also your internal knowledge, collective knowledge and technology to address these challenges? I think Oscar made a very good point, which is, the applicability of solution. I know by working also with large corporates that usually, let's say the technology readiness level of the MVP is a big concern for big corporates who want to take less risk in the early stage application. But perhaps a giant like Microsoft has also his own, let's say, innovation strategy to get the most out of the early stage startups. So just give me your view, Fabio.
Thank you, Emanuele. It's okay if I just close the windows because there is a lot of noise, sorry.
You sure? We will cancel this or we just keep it for...
Okay. We take advantage that it is registered, I think, Emanuele.
Sure.
Perfect, okay. So I can start now with the answer, and we probably just cut the part where there was a lot of noise. I don't know what happened. Okay, so clearly, any environmental priority is becoming, I think, of paramount importance for any company. I think it's nothing that we are sharing here as a news. It's something that is happening, maybe with different sensibility in different parts of the world, with different industry approaching it in different ways. So there is still a lot of diversity, but it's really gaining importance. And I think that we need to look at it from a top-down and from a bottom-up perspective, meaning that for sure, governance is key. Having the endorsement from the top is important, and this is often very much focused in many conversations like the one we are having. But reflecting on what Stefan was sharing before on the distribution, let's say, of the need to have, again, a more distributed approach, more involvement at all layers. He was talking about energy production, but I think that we could reason in the same way a little bit about everything. I really see that the future we're entering require each people in an organization to take accountability for energy challenge. It's not something that it's enough to be covered by the general manager or the board, because more and more, a lot of decisions are distributed, and this is something really facilitated by technology, because it's really with technology, it's easier to distribute decision, to share data, and it's really, it's happening everywhere. Like even from an urbanistic point of view, I think that we will see more and more decentralization somehow, because, you will be able to have goods delivered everywhere with drones, and with a self-driving car it will be more convenient to move, because you can do anything while you are moving, because the car is driving itself, and you can work remotely everywhere. We have seen it a little bit with COVID pandemic, but with a mixed reality that is arriving. So with again, we will be able to work as holograms, collaborate with others, and you see all of this will make everything more and more decentralized. And I think it will apply to the energy production, but also to the organization of companies, and at large also then to the implication that we have to consider when we face this challenge. So we sometimes talk about, let's say, a democratization of technology, a democratization of the empowerment, but also about citizen developers. It's like, every person should somehow be able to build his or her own AI application to solve his or her own challenge with zero code or low code, and very often maybe some of these applications may also have some environmental benefit, like helping fixing local challenge. I think again we need to empower everyone to contribute in this. It's not enough to have the board of the organization caring about it.
Any special program you can mention? I have heard that Microsoft, of course, is trying to get the neutral parity very soon by 2030, if I'm
for sure. We have, I mean, as Microsoft, we are, I mean, on our own, we have a very ambitious target, and we are carbon neutral already since a while. We've been carbon neutral across the world since actually 2012, but now we are committing to become really carbon negative by 2030. And promoting sustainability at large and with really low carbon business practices globally. And it's a lot of things related to this. It's about our own operations, on our data center, like building data center on the, behind the water, on the ocean, so that we use cold water in the ocean to refrigerate data center, for instance. It's about the way we are investing in sustainability in our product, in our services, in our devices, from Surface to Xbox with our eco-friendly material, and again, producing them, cutting energy consumption, reducing physical footprint. It goes into the project we are doing with our customer and partner. I mentioned a few of them earlier, but a lot of projects related to helping our customer actually becoming carbon neutral as well, or carbon negative. And then really a lot of projects that we are doing. I mentioned before a few of them, but it's really large. For instance, we are doing with a World Mosquito Program, just the first thing that came to my mind, where we are using Microsoft Azure, our AI model, to understand how mosquito moves and how they transmit diseases, and then we can use AI for fighting, let's say, diseases brought by mosquito, and fight the dengue and other bad things, happening, especially in the poorest area in the world. And then we are using like Therma, which is another project that we are using machine learning to analyze the head part by pairing thermal cameras with machine learning, and then really helping also, in this case, fighting diseases and helping the planet. But it's really a lot of different initiatives. I would say that on one side is what we are doing inside our company to become carbon negative, but then it's a lot, I think, even more interesting how we're using helping customer to transform. We have to look the entire value chain. Sometimes, if you become really carbon, let's say, environmental friendly, but your supplier and your customer are not, when you take a more broader view, you are not for sure carbon negative, or you are not helping the planet for real. If your supplier are doing something very bad for the planet, even if you're not doing it on your own, I will not feel too proud as a company. So that's, I think, something that we should more and more consider.
Of course, I agree with this. And sorry for telling Microsoft going neutral. I forgot that you already are neutral. I was actually meaning negative, which is something that you're on the track of. And I'm glad that you also introduced concept of a smart energy solution, which I know that in Enel, as one of the leader energy company, not only in Europe, but at the global scales, smart energy solutions are, of course, a mainstream topic, Luca. So I would be really interested to know what, in terms of smart energy and energy management application, you're looking at the moment, and how these can interact with also more, let's say, innovation solution from the startup world, perhaps, or any other, let's say, exotic corporate innovation strategy that you foresee in the global energy trading sector.
Sure. Actually, I would like to bring a slightly different perspective. Starting from what Fabio just said, we are speaking about a risk. It's not a weather risk, it's a climate risk. We are dealing in a situation in which we have to do something. And actually, now we are speaking about technology, and all this technology allows us to change our environmental. This is one of the first period in human history where we have the possibility to really change what will be our future. And actually, this is a key point, because change a lot of the perspective also in terms of the future strategy from a corporate point of view, of course, but also from individual point of view. In general sense, when we spoke about risk, we thinking about the probability that something bad happen. And we always believe, like individual, but also like corporate, that managing risk means change only the effect of the bad events in our life. Easy example. It's hot here, I'm going to move to the mountain. This is true, but nowadays we have, thanks to the technology, we have the opportunity and the ability to change not only the effect, but also the probability that something happen. And speaking about climate, this is quite easy to see. Coming to your question, of course, Enel has put in place a lot of initiative in terms of electricity in order to address this problem. We are reducing the fossil fuel production, of course, and the aim is to reach a sustainability of future and a sustainability production mix. And speaking about smart energy, I would also take the assist of what Stefan said. When we come up with the renewable, we're speaking about a spread, something that is not located in just one place. And here where we need something tool that are very strong in terms of calculation, and power calculation, because we no longer will have a line, a production that is production then consumption. We will have more like a grid. And dealing with this kind of problem, we'll deal with a problem in which we will have many markets that are intercorrelated and connect to each other. And we must be able to analyze all together the system and must be able to adapt the system with the new futures, the new scenario. So this is maybe one of the biggest challenge, and this is where a corporate like Enel are investing a lot in terms of initiative and innovation.
I completely see your point. Once again, I think, data challenges in energy are, of course, one of the biggest, things at the moment. We talk about data science, big data lakes that are coming from IoT and other devices. So I think, the digital world with energy is going to be more phygital at the transition between digital and physical. So I think, forecasting, real-time forecasting and nowcasting using like also meteorological applications and techniques will be the answer to the, to the risk management and energy management in the future. Having good data, of course, is the first aim for data intensive company. So I would maybe go back with Stefan and Shar. There are the, let's say, the more innovation startup guys at the panel, and I would like to see your interactive perspective on how the new technologies are probably, affecting all these energy challenges, not only in artificial intelligence, but also with connected technologies, digital and physical. Feel free to interact, start each other. Now, okay, let's start with why I don't want to.
It's a great question. I think kind of piggybacking off of Stefan's description of decentralization on energy and the reasons for that, specifically when it comes to energy density and like the requirements around decentralizing. I think there's a number of other factors that kind of touching on Luca's point and Fabio's point, there's a number of other factors that are driving decentralization and by that token sustainability. So obviously there's and this is the kind of thing that enables the ideation and the creation of a product like ours, like TrashBot. Sensors are becoming more affordable and more accessible. AI algorithms are also becoming more accessible. Computers like that are actually quite powerful, like a Raspberry Pi or other similar platforms are also becoming more accessible. And this allows kind of a broad democratization of technology development. And it also enables the deployment of even simple technologies that can be very informative for any type of sustainability strategy. And our product TrashBot is a clear example of that. And so what's enabling or driving decentralization on the solid waste front isn't necessarily the same things that are driving it on the energy front. What we're solving is for contamination and human error that cannot be reliably solved at the recycling plant level. And therefore, a robot that is more accurate at separating waste at the point of disposal makes a lot of sense. But these broader macro trends on cost reduction, accessibility of software and AI algorithms kind of plays into the broader ecosystem around innovation and technology.
That makes completely sense. And from the pure, let's say, physical world, Stefan, I think you're referring to the physical world and maybe approaching the digital as a consequence of the physical biofuel source of energy. What do you think are the main technologies that are, maybe concurring to sort out other problems than data science problem with energy?
Basically, I would say all this. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, so I would say all this, like, basically, to get more sustainable, we can optimize a lot of things. And so basically was like all the logistic parts. We also care about energy savings. So all of this can data have a lot of can be very precious to help to optimize this flow. So like you were talking about hydrogen and the localized production of hydrogen back to energy, but how do you meet the needs and the production? And so this is all the logistics chains of this flow with smaller production. Energy efficiency is a better way not to have to produce so much energy, is to be more efficient when you use and don't waste the energy. And of course, this also, all this technology, all those data are very precious for that. So as Charles mentioned, as the cost of all these devices goes down, the availability of data goes up, and it's opportunity to make some savings based on that. As a practitioner of that, and I think many people will agree about that, one thing is very hard actually is to name data. So when you are in front of this big lake of data and try to do something out of it to optimize logistics, savings, can be very hard to have a well-ordered data that you can actually make use of it. And it seems a very small challenge, very simple things, but it's very essential. So the point of here is naming data and trying to have a way to organize it is a very tricky challenge that comes above this wide availability of data.
Thank you so much for your perspective. So we are pretty close away from the conclusion of the panel. I would leave maybe the last round of discussion on a quick note on how this, let's say, not only the artificial intelligence, but also the other digital technologies are affecting one main investment sector that now is trending up, which is ESG, environmental and social governance. I think this is one of the most, let's say, ethical application of investing over the last, let's say, years, and will be the trend of the future. So just a quick note, any perspective of yours on the investment side, on the ethical perspective, how AI and green technologies will interact together to build a better future?
Yeah, I'm happy to give a quick founder's point of view. So obviously this is a trend that's been building up for a few years, and I think it's going to hit a critical mass at this point. And obviously you have some investors that are jumping on the bandwagon, and they look at ESG as kind of an afterthought. Really, they're looking for an ROI. On the other hand, you do have some really substantial investors, obviously SOSV is kind of included in that mix, that are really serious about it and really driving it across their portfolio. The 300-pound gorilla that comes to mind is BlackRock. And from the point of view of a founder that's drumming up business with the portfolio of some of the holdings of a firm like BlackRock, those firms are feeling the pressure from their investors, right? And so it's whether they like it or not, it's opening up opportunities for sustainable, innovative technologies to kind of find a foothold in the marketplace. So it's an interesting time to be.
They are pure, let's say, green investment, because now I have heard also this new term, greenwashing, which is basically pretending that non-green investment are really green, so like fake green investments. So that's something.
Or even symbolic green investments, right?
Exactly. To this extent, maybe Fabio, you want to give a view about Microsoft ESG investment?
Actually, I would like, Manuele, maybe to comment on your previous question, where you were also mentioning other technologies together with, let's say, the ethical challenge, and then go back to try to bring a broader view.
We were just closing, but you're free to give your view, Fabio, for sure.
Just mentioning that, we were talking about artificial intelligence here, but there are so many other technologies that have a big role in this. Something, for instance, will have a huge impact is quantum computing. It's a little bit outside of today's conversation, but the way it can help us, especially in chemistry, to maybe create new molecules that are able to fight the CO2 emission, to observe the emission and the impact on the agriculture and so forth and so forth. So I really think this is a technology that has a huge potential when it comes to climate change and helping us saving the planet. And then there are other more technical, let's say, technology like blockchain and so forth that also can be used very much with AI. So just to mention that in this conversation, we talk a lot about AI, which is good because it's powerful, but there are many other technologies that will collaborate or reinforce the positive impact of AI.
But I give you the challenge then to move from a wake to a new deep tech green conference, maybe in the future, where we can delve deeper into this application, which are very, very interesting for sure. So just a very quick round of answers on SG investment. If you want to add anything, feel free to do now. Oscar, maybe you want to give this.
I mean, for us, this has been obviously something that is quite consistent with our investment strategy, which has always been trying to address real world problems. And assuming that if we all really want to keep the world as it is and make it better, at least keep it safe, and maintain it, and from there taking it better, you need to address these macro problems that exist. You need to address problems that are fundamental to people's lives, and some of them are critical, like food and agriculture is a big space where you are solving like health, hunger, but there's also a massive amount of energy consumption that is present in the whole food industry, where you have a massive opportunity to create impact. So I think from that point of view, it's interesting how, as I was mentioning, you have that emerging market trend of sustainability coming, because that's the way to go for them to be able to actually exist. You have the pressure that is coming more and more from the public markets, because consumers are demanding companies to be more responsible. And that responsibility comes at all levels, and that's where this greenwashing trend is also happening. But consumers and markets are eventually able to understand who is actually doing this, and then it's contradicting itself. I mean, who is trying to talk about it? Well, we're going to be trying to have the sustainable packaging on that side, but then the way we produce all the raw ingredients for our products are extremely polluting, and then there might be also additional impact in the way we do what we do. So I think that's going to be quite an interesting. Those will be quite interesting times, and obviously, I mean, I love technology. I think like Luca, my PhD was also in biomedical engineering, which I think is an amazing field where you apply to healthcare almost like software, hardware. In my case, a lot of signals and electromagnetism in my area of work. It was quite deep in that area. And being in love in technology, I think that we also need to be open to the fact that a lot of the most impactful opportunities that we're going to have in the application of technology, they are not going to come only from the deep tech side. They're also going to come from the simple application of technology and like rational efficiency applied to multiple situations where today things are just inefficient. being able to have like a better way to move things from A to B, less ways to reduce the usage of waste. A lot of things are going to come without technology. And then in a second phase, when we want to consolidate, when we want to be able to take things to the next level, technology is going to be fundamental. But there's a lot of quick wins that can be achieved just by rationally using technology to addressing some of these world problems that are extremely important.
I agree. Technology is a medium, and let's say is the way to achieve also, this type of challenge. I think in ESG investment, for example, blockchain could be also, with the aid of AI, be a very good evaluator of pure green investment. That's another topic that probably we can discuss apart. Any further comment on this environmental and ethical concern?
I would like to add something. I mean,
sure, Luca.
We spend we discuss a lot of technology in this panel, and we see one common element of this technology are data, and how you measure it. When it comes to ESG investment, actually one of the main, not problem, but one of the main issue from my side, it's how you measure it. I mean, you are speaking about maybe an investment that gives you value in, I don't know, 5-10 years. And everybody knows that is something that is worthy. Everybody knows that is something that is needed. But actually, how you can measure it, how can give you a value that is easy, a premium on that action. And just to give you a very easy example, in 1654, many times back, Galileo invented the thermometer with air and water. And thanks to this invention, Grand Duke Ferdinando II found the first meteorological institution. Actually, as also Oscar said, this is something really easy. I mean, they just measure something that exists, that is very easy, is the temperature, but in the way that they apply the technology, something completely innovative. And again, we are speaking about data, we are speaking about a way of use something that had always existed, but we are not we was not able to use it. So actually, speaking about ESG investment, I see the same problem. I mean, we understand the problem, we get that this is something important, but from my point of view, we miss some kind of metrics in order to really evaluate this kind of investment.
I agree. Thank you so much for your insight. I will literally go on for hours with you guys. It's been an amazing panel. I think I really have to thank Wake and European Online Forum for the ability to wrap up and gather such an excellence from very different perspective. I was, of course, honored and also a bit emotional at the beginning to introduce such an important topics, and my wish is that technology, and in particular AI, but also other technologies will concur to get, the best results on these important challenges like the ecological and green transition. For the time being, thank you everyone, and have a nice conference with Wake 2021. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Pleasure.
Pleasure, guys.